Yep.
I didn't know at the time that I was drinking to escape. I just thought I was drinking to be the life of the party, which I was not, just for the record. I was like the drunk, annoying, obnoxious, sloppy, all over the place girl.
Okay, boom. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Real Drug Talk. Pretty excited about this one this morning. We're going international. We've got Chey on the podcast. How you going, mate?
Hello, hi. So happy to be here.
Awesome. We're going to have an interesting, well, I think it's going to be an interesting conversation this morning because we're going to be talking a little bit about alternative methods of recovery from the traditional ones and a bit of Chey's journey into that and how that came about. I'm not going to talk too much. I'm just going to dive into it. So how I do it, Chey, is that we do what we call the elevator ride. So if you're to stand in the elevator with someone for 3 minutes and you're to tell them your story, what would you say to them? How would you explain it? So give us the 3-minute elevator pitch of like your story and how everything came about to this point, and then we'll kind of riff from there.
All right, 3 minutes. Okay, my hands are getting sweaty. Shit, 3 minutes. Okay. So Cheyenne Morrison, 29, born and raised in Oregon. I had a father who had a crazy addiction to alcohol after his father died, and watched that and experienced that growing up. I had a not bad childhood, but not the best either. You know, lots of, violence, lots of aggression, drinking, drugs. Kids, we were taking care of ourselves at ages like 4 and 7.
Yeah.
Grow up, speed that up, start dabbling in drugs. Had my first sip of alcohol at 6 and started dabbling in drugs and alcohol as early as 12, 13, and consecutively. First sip at 6. My dad was like, it's a wine cooler. So my brain was just not braining from the early starts of my life. And so once I became a younger adult, I started obviously in high school, like wanting to feel cool, wanting to fit in, trying to figure out who I am, right? Like who is Cheyenne? What's my identity? And then after high school, my drinking like really picked up. We got fake IDs. It was super easy. And I knew that it was a problem somewhat, but I just thought I overdid it. So I wasn't fully aware. I just thought that other people could drink normally and I could not. And
Yep.
I didn't know at the time that I was drinking to escape. I just thought I was drinking to be the life of the party, which I was not, just for the record. I was like the drunk, annoying, obnoxious, sloppy, all over the place girl.
Team, just a really quick interruption to this podcast episode. I want to tell you about a free report that we've created that we've been getting some really good feedback about. As you know, we run an outpatient program called Connection-Based Living where we help people to get recovery and change things up without having to go to rehab. And we've created a free report basically outlining just the different pitfalls and things that you have to watch out for when you engage in the rehab system and you're looking to get some support and help through the recovery services. There are some really great services out there. We're not shitting on all of them. And there are some good rehabs out there, but there is a lot of dodgy ones. And we wanted to make a report exposing it all. So that's totally free. Jump down below. I highly recommend that you download it and just have a read if you're going through the process of thinking about helping a loved one get into recovery, thinking about getting some recovery yourself, or you're just generally interested in the topic. It's a really good read, and there's a couple of points in there that might shock and horrify you. So jump in, check out that free report. I'm mentioning it because we've had some really good feedback about it recently. And all you have to do is enter your email and it'll send you the report back to your email, and you can download it and have a read. Also, if you want to book in a call and just have a general chat about your options and how you might be able to get some help, we'll leave some details there as well. But I'm going to stop interrupting now. Hope that helps. Back into the show. Peace.
And then after in 2019, I got a DUI. 2020, I went to jail for punching my ex in the face. And then 2022, my father died from cirrhosis of the liver. So I knew that I was headed that direction, right? I was like, okay. But I didn't stop and get sober then. I continued drinking. And from there, 2023, I met my partner, my boyfriend in 2020, and he'd watched the entire experience of my drinking career. It was the worst in 2020. I think the pandemic really fucked up a lot of people. And
Yeah.
after that, I decided in 2023 to really give it a shot and get sober.
Yeah.
And after that, I made a decision July 23rd, 2023, after many, many attempts of getting sober. And it finally just stuck. And then from there, I created my own community where I wanted to just help one woman. And from there, I've helped dozens and dozens of women. I've hopped on hundreds, if not thousands, of calls at this point. And I've grown my Instagram from zero to like over 40,000 followers just organically, just wanting to put a good message out there and offer people a different alternative that you don't have to be chanting in the corner of a room saying that you're an alcoholic. I have no problem with AA. It's just not something that I believe in. And if you
Yeah.
don't believe it, it's not going to work. So I always say it's not a matter of how you get sober, it's why you get sober, why you want to start prioritizing yourself, why you want to understand who you actually are underneath all of the shame and the guilt and the bad decisions. Like, who is that version of yourself, and what does she look like? And I
Yeah.
would say that's my 3 minute pitch. I mean, I probably cut some shit out, but that's who I am through and through. And I'm a lover, and I love to love, and anything that I do say, it's never to offend anybody. It's just I do believe that everyone can have their own approach to sobriety. And of
Yeah.
course, I get hit with the "you were never an alcoholic." I'm like, okay, because I'm better now and I wasn't, and it's just this whole thing, and I find it so silly. But yeah, it was really my dad's death that really expedited my sobriety. And then of course my boyfriend's ultimatum at the very end. He's like, I don't want to give you an ultimatum. He's like, but I refuse to watch you kill yourself, which I was headed in
Yeah.
that direction. I was drinking an unhealthy amount in unsafe environments, and I was very reckless, and I didn't really care. And then now I care too much. I'm like, can I overdose on vitamins? Like, can I take too much vitamin D?
I love it. I love it. So my biggest question is, if you didn't vibe with the AA sort of methodology of recovery, my as we were talking about before we jumped on and started recording, I've been to the States and had a little bit of exposure to just how kind of prevalent 12-step programs are in America, and how it seems to be the thing that everybody kind of gets funneled into, and that there doesn't seem to be, correct me if I'm wrong, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of other options
Yep.
out there for people. How did you navigate that space when you were kind of feeling that vulnerability initially and you were struggling,
Right.
at the start to kind of find your way? Did you go to a few meetings and just went, nah, this isn't for me, and started finding out alternative paths, or how did that all come about?
Right. Yep. So I had at the time been court mandated, because courts and hospitals and most people are going to push you into AA. It's the thing that's
Yeah.
known, right? And this is just what people are like, oh, you just got to go to AA. You have a problem with AA or NA. So I
Yeah.
went, and it was court mandated. And I loved my leader, Frank. He was total cholo. He like had his button tied up like this, like totally cool guy from LA, like super dope. But the people in the class were either messed up on drugs
Yeah.
or didn't want to be there. And I'm like, what am I doing here? Like, are we trying to get sober? And it felt very forced, where I know that anything forced, you're going to resist it, right? You're going against your human anatomy to be like, I have a choice in this. It's like, oh, I resistance. So when I was there, of course, I'm studious. I was like, I was pen and paper. I was taking notes. I was watching this guy got arrested 500 times. Like, they really do the scarcity, or not scarcity, the
Right.
scare tactics, or like,
Yeah.
if you don't stop, you're gonna die. Which they're absolutely right, but it's like, whoa, like reel it the fuck back. Like, I'm not there yet. I'm a first time offender, and the very first thing they tell you is like, well, if you offended once, you're most likely 85%. And this is statistics. You can't make up statistics, and they are right. You're probably gonna have a second and a third, but it's not very motivating. It's not very encouraging to want
Yeah.
to be more. I feel that society kind of puts a label on you, and now you're ostracized and you're made to believe like, oh, people who struggle with addiction are bad people. I'm not a bad person. I've made a fuck ton of bad decisions, but I was led astray. I wasn't given the proper guidance. I sure as shit didn't understand how to process emotions. From as young as a kid, I was binge eating, and that binge eating turned into binge drinking. I was never given those tools. So when I went to AA, I recognized that this just isn't for me. So then speed it up to a year and a half later, I downloaded the Reframe app. I tried moderation many of times. I don't moderate. I fucking doesn't work for me. And then I got the I Am Sober app, which I still have to this day. But the I Am Sober app felt very much like I'm just a number on the platform. I didn't feel like a person being heard. So what it was that I was looking for was connection, right? The opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection. And so I was looking and seeking that out, but my inner circle were a ton of people who also drank or smoked weed or did drugs or vaped. And I just wanted to detach myself from that world. So I moved from California to Florida in hopes to get sober. I thought I could run away. I could run away and I'll get sober. But what I found was wherever you go, there you are. My problems followed with me until I started to work through them. So there wasn't really anything that I found. And honestly, you feel so lost when you're trying to look for help. I'm like, do I need a therapist? I don't know who to go to. You don't even understand your problem or why you have this problem. And as many girls as I hop on calls with, they believe in their minds that they have to be at this rock bottom and lose everything in order for them to get sober and to stay away from alcohol. I'm like, you absolutely could just make a choice and be like, my body does not like how alcohol makes me feel. Our minds, well, they will justify, they will rationalize anything. Our minds are not our friends. Minds are tools. Until you learn how to use that tool, it's going to fuck you up. But our bodies will never lie. Our bodies are like, we don't like how that feels. Listening to your body is a lot harder when you have a mind-altering substance coursing through your brain, right? But it's just, it comes down to the point that you don't have to hit a rock bottom. You don't have to be an alcoholic. You don't have to, fucked up your entire life to get sober. You could just want to live a better experience. And if anybody is listening to this who maybe does not have that bad of a problem, right? And that's why I always say I'm so thankful that I actually had an addiction to alcohol in the severity that I did, because I have a lot of friends who drink minorly, like minor leagues, and never get sober because they don't ever really see like, it's not too bad. But when I saw Joe Rogan say he's not drinking alcohol, I was like, this is amazing. So overall, to answer your question, that is what led me to create something of my own, because it wasn't really offered here in the States. And now knowing what I know they have like Avalon and Celebrate Recovery, and they have other forms of communities that aren't AA centric, right? Because AA is very religion based and it's very belief based, where it's, you must say you're an alcoholic in order to be here. You must admit it. You must admit to everybody. It's like, I can admit that I had a problem with alcohol, but I refuse, myself, to call myself an alcoholic for the rest of my life when I don't struggle with alcohol anymore. I've made a choice. I've made a decision, and I have practiced what has kept me sober, and I continue to practice those things. That's my belief on it. So.
Yeah. And I don't know if you agree, like, because I did 12-step fellowships for a period of time. And there was just like, I kind of say, like, once I got my brain back, there was just kind of a few things. And again, I'm like you, I don't hate AA. It actually, or NA, it actually really helped me in a lot of ways, and got my life back together. But, once my brain sort of started to come back a little bit, I say, and I started to kind of get a bit of the sanity wires kind of happening in my head, I just realized a few things that didn't gel with me. And that was one of them, what you just talked about, which was this kind of notion of calling yourself like an alcoholic or an addict for the rest of your life. And, I sort of believe that if you tell yourself something enough times, you're eventually going to like believe it. You know what I mean? And even if you are sober or clean or whatever you want to call it for 10 years, if you're constantly telling yourself that you're an addict and that, you're if you have one drink or if you have one slip up or this thing's going to happen, that you're going to go right back to where you were previously,
Right.
then that's what's going to happen. You know what I mean? Because you've been telling yourself that for like 10 years.
Exactly.
And that's what I kind of see happening with people. And whether my methodology is right or not, I'm not sure, but it's definitely the pattern that I've seen that happens with people is that they almost like talk their kind of reality into existence in a negative way, you know?
Right, right. Absolutely. And I don't think it's really a matter of you being right or being wrong. It's just, what is it that's going to work for you?
Mm,
What works for you may not work for me. And I love that you said that about AA. I have so many women in my community who came from AA and actually some who still continue to go to AA because they offer the in person. I would love to grow it so big to the point where I have in person, growth mindset, get-togethers, meetups. I'm even having an in-person meetup here in Miami. So
cool.
I like the camaraderie of the fellowship, getting together, getting connected. For me, it was
Yeah.
just the same. I didn't want to chant, I'm an alcoholic. It's like our words are so powerful, and they actually have this really awesome study that this man did, Masako Udo, I think his name is. Don't quote me on this.
Right.
It's a
Right. Yeah.
water study. And when he speaks to the water kindly, the water freezes in beautiful little ice sculpture snowflakes, right?
Crystals. Yeah.
Crystals. I was like, what the fuck is that called? And then when he speaks to it angrily or negatively, the ice freezes rigid and all messy. And so what does that say about us? If our bodies are 70% water and we're saying things that are negative, our bodies are going to absorb that energy. Our minds don't know if we're joking, like, oh, you're so dumb. Like, our minds don't know that. I whisper it because I'm like, I don't even want to say it. But if you wake up every single morning and you say, I'm an alcoholic, yeah, you're going to live that reality. That's your belief. And our beliefs are at the core of who we are. So if our beliefs at the core of who we are saying things like, I'm an alcoholic, and you believe that, you're going to have a negative story tied to it. And that negative story is going to create a negative reality, one where you don't feel free or feel liberated or powerful to be who you want to be. I didn't want to adopt the mindset that I was powerless to anything. A liquid? I'm powerless to alcohol. The liquid? Yeah, sure, it's mind altering. It's tempting. It's all around us. It's not like a Coke or heroin or something that you have to go and look for. Alcohol is ingrained into society. It's around us every second of every day. I checked out cookies the other day and it's like, would you like Prosecco? I'm like, no, I would not. Probably just milk. Milk with my cookies would be good, not fucking Prosecco. But it's just a constant reminder. So there will always be temptation. But if you make it a choice and you're like, I could drink, but I'm not going to because I know what is to happen. I've done this time and time again. It's not going to be different. And honestly, when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, it's the worst shit I could put into my body. But I
Yep.
understand why I did it. I understand why people do it. We live in a very sick and sad society, and it's
Yeah.
unfortunate. And the media has a big part in that. And so people are scared and fearful and they just want to run away and they want to escape. And it's not like these kind of things are taught. Like you said, your mind started to wake up and then you started to question what had been taught to you. And that's an amazing skill to have because a lot of us just kind of go with what people tell us to do. You know, it's
Yeah.
like with the COVID, everyone's like, go get vaccinated. It's like, no, what? This hasn't even been out that long. So I did it, to each their own. But that is, even another thing that kind of divided us. And I feel like this whole you have a problem, you can drink normally, even divides us. And at the end of the
Yeah.
day, we're humans. So my approach on sobriety is to remind us of that everybody struggles in some way. Some just hide it better than others. But unfortunately, with an addiction as strong as alcohol, you kind of have to put yourself out there on the spotlight and be like, I really need help. And then more people find out this, and then it kind of is a weird stigma. It's like a stigmatized as a negative thing. And I don't feel that an addiction is a negative unless you don't do anything about it. Then, of course, it's a negative because you lose your life over this shit. My dad died
Yeah.
because of alcohol. Well, not because of alcohol. He chose alcohol rather than choosing to sit down and deal with his problems. And unfortunately,
Yeah.
you choose that long enough, it'll cost you your life. And I hate that he's gone, and I miss him every day. But had it not been for his sacrifice, or at least that's the meaning that I like to make around it, had he not lost his life the way that he did, I don't know if my trajectory would have been to get sober. I don't, because
Yep.
I was going hard. I liked drinking. I did. It was a good time. I had fun, but I would always get into trouble, and I would always end up getting hurt, or I'd end up like voluntarily hurting myself, like running into doors or punching myself in the face or busting my own lip or getting into fights. It's like there was so much self-harm involved because it was drinking a depressant. And that depressant made me even more willing to be suicidal, to not want to be here anymore, to do things like cheat and steal and lie. And that's not who I am. I don't think
Yep.
people are bad people because they have an addiction. I think that addiction of any degree will make you less of a good person because you are consumed by the addiction itself.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. I love how you framed all that up. So with all that, if people are coming with all those issues and those problems, and they say, "Hey, Chey, I'm really struggling with this stuff," what's like the top 3 things that you automatically go to talk to them about around getting some shifts in their life and making some change?
Right. So first thing I do is bring awareness. To any kind of change we want to make, we have to first become aware. If you want to lose weight, you got to become aware that you have a bad relationship to food, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I like to do is bring awareness to them. And what I do in my community is they have a journal series. They have 17 journals to go through that really bring awareness to them. And they start with the first 7 major influences, right? You have like people, habitual, your beliefs, coping, worldly, hormonal. And when you are influenced by people and you don't know what those influences are, you're just going to think, oh, I just drink all the time because. It's like, no, you're drinking for a specific reason. I believe that you don't have an alcohol problem, a drug problem, a food problem, a whatever problem. You have a life problem. And it's so much easier to run away, to drink, to smoke, to cope, to pop a pill, to do whatever, rather than to deal with it head on. And like, I feel uncomfortable. I feel uneasy. Like, what could it be? Let me be curious. But very few people are curious because they're scared. And being scared is going to always overshadow the curiosity because being scared is way more of a real and big emotion than curiosity. You're like, man, fuck curiosity. I don't know. I'm just scared.
Yeah.
And then after that, we work through beliefs, right? Now we need to change your beliefs. If you believe in your heart that, oh, this helps me with relieving my stress, right? Well, it actually raises cortisol in your body, causing you to stress more. Well, it's just harmless fun. It's so harmless that it's at the top of driving fatalities, right? Homicide, suicide, mental, physical health decline, but it's harmless fun. So we work through the beliefs that they have. And a lot of people have very jaded beliefs just because of the way that they grew up, their friend circle, just where they work, their work environment, right? I have a lot of servers, I have a lot of nurses, I have a lot of lawyers, like I have a lot of people who deal with people that cause them at the end of the day to drink. A lot of people pleasers, I find too, right? People who want everyone else to be happy around them. And so a lot of these work professions, right, where you're working with people, you tend to distance your personal needs and be like, it's fine, I'll just make everyone else happy. And then at the end of the day, you're like, oh, my cup is so empty, I'm so drained. Let me just fill it. Let me just fill it with alcohol. Let me just fill it with Coke or this or that or whatever. And then the last step that we go over would be healing. So once you become aware, once you change your beliefs, and then we go into healing. The healing part is most important because what ends up happening is, Gabor Mate, right? He talks a lot about this, that people don't necessarily have the addiction for the reasons that you would think. People fall into addictions because of things like childhood trauma, past experiences that have gone unprocessed, and then they carry these with them for the rest of their lives thinking that one day it will just solve itself. But something that has such a big hold on you, like an emotion that's been unprocessed, will forever haunt you until you allow yourself the space to bring it up and let it out, right? Bring it from the subconscious into the conscious so you can be like, can I let this go? Can I forgive? Can I move forward and finally stop harboring this feeling that I'm not good enough, right? And this is a lot of the women, because I specifically work with women at the moment, love to work with men. But a lot of the women who come to me, have this feeling of not being good enough. And there's many other factors of things that I deal with throughout the days, but valuing yourself and worthiness is a big key factor, and a lot of these women struggle. Like, I don't feel good enough, so what's the point? I'm just gonna go 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 and drink this drink, and this drink makes me feel all warm and fuzzy and happy inside, until it fucking doesn't. And then it
Yeah.
ruins your life, and it ruins your marriage, and it ruins your job, and it ruins your body. And then at that point, you're deep into it, and it's really hard to pull yourself up and out of that, especially if you don't have the right support or the right team by you. So those would be the first three things that I do with the girls that I work with, for me personally.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. And I'm really interested on that healing side of things.
Right.
What's the commonalities that people present with in terms of the stuff that they need to heal? Is there commonalities, or is it all different?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is actually a lot of commonalities. Definitely worthiness, like I had mentioned. A lot of childhood trauma. Not in every case. I do have some girls, few to none, because I do have more girls who have had a more challenging childhood or a younger
Yeah.
adolescence, right? Mom cheats, dad cheats, they divorce, right? That early divorce, mom cheated, like that creates like a disconnect between your mom. Um, and then just some of the women, if it wasn't childhood, a lot of them, it could be their marriage isn't what they want it to be. Their husband still is drinking, but they don't want to drink, but their husband just doesn't want to do it with them, or their husband is verbally abusive, or mentally abusive, or emotionally abusive, or physically abusive, and it puts these women into this tiny, they become a shell of a person. So battling that, and then that even doubles down on the worthiness. Like, now they're rug has been ripped underneath their feet, and they don't know how to heal, and they're just stuck. They're like, oh, I must be the problem, because what being in an abusive relationship, like any kind, even financial relationship that's abusive, it starts to devalue you. And so your self-esteem goes out the door. And when you don't have self-esteem or self-worth or confidence, you're more likely to go down that rabbit hole of, let me drink to escape, right? And a
Yeah.
lot of moms, I work with a ton of moms, and it's a very, very hard job. And I think it's very undervalued in our society. It's not looked at as like, like this great monumental job, and it totally is. You're creating the children of society. It's like you are
Mm-hmm.
a part of the society that is going to be here in the future. Mothers
Mm-hmm.
have the most important job, and their husbands work, and now mothers, you'll see working a job on top of being a mother, and these women are just like trying to be a super mom while also creating a paycheck. Like, there's a lot of people struggling financially, and that's a big driving factor. And then just not knowing that you can set boundaries. Like, a lot of these women that I work with, like, their healing stems from not being able to set boundaries with people around them. And then a lot of that healing is also letting go and being able to forgive. It's like every single time we hold on to hate in our heart, it's like carrying a rock inside of a backpack. And while you have this backpack on and you're climbing up a mountain and you're trying to go up, you're recognizing that this backpack's getting heavier every single day. And so it comes to a point where you're like, I got to take out a rock. And every time you take out a rock, you forgive somebody or you forgive yourself. And then you recognize, like, hey, I put some rocks in some other people's backpacks. Like, let me be a little bit more forgiving. So the
Yeah.
healing is the most important, because you have to process those emotions that you're feeling. And if you don't ever allow yourself that space, then you're forever going to be haunted by the feelings and emotions of the past. And that's the scary thing, is when you're doing the healing journey, you don't necessarily know what it is you do need to heal. It's not always so obvious, right? I have some women who are like, well, I had a good childhood, I have a good marriage, like, what could it be? Like, I should be happy. And those women, it's harder to figure out what it is. But what that usually ties down to is they don't know who they are. They're not confident in themselves. They have low self-esteem. They're unhappy with just not knowing the fact that they're drinking while they could be present with their husband, present with their children. So
Yeah.
a lot of differences, but also at the same time very similar. Childhood stands out the most, bad marriages stand out the most, and financial stress stands out the most.
Yeah. So interesting. And that's what I've found as well. No one's the same, but there is threads that run between people's stories
Right.
that are common, which I think helps in a lot of ways too, because when people come into communities like yours, there is that connection piece, and people can relate and
Yeah.
kind of go, oh yeah, that happened to me too, and bounce off each other, and really get the healing because they can relate and feel understood and feel the compassion that they need to kind of move forward. So it's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. There is those like, yes, everyone is different, but there are those strings that it's like so similar, and that's why I like Gabor Mate. I like Dopamine Nation by Anna Limbricki or whatever, and then this is one of my favorite books right now. It's The Biology of Desire
That's a
by
that's my favorite one.
really. Oh my
Yeah.
god, it's like I
Yeah.
have so many notes and tabbies in here because I'm like this part. I'm like wait, this part. This is. I love Mark Lewis so much. I love that you knew that book. Awesome.
So I went to quick story. I went to here in Melbourne in Australia, one of the big universities or colleges as you call them over there held like a debate between like people that believe in the disease, and then they had Mark Lewis who kind of argues against like the disease model,
Yes.
and he was being a little bit cheeky, and he had a glass of wine poured out on the stage that he was like drinking from while he was like debating these people about the disease model and stuff. And the people that believed in the disease model, they just like, it just was like blowing their mind. They just could not believe that he was like having a glass of wine and that he used to have an addiction or
Yeah.
addiction problems. And like, it was quite funny. It was quite funny.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's always the thing that I find funny because on my whole point of doing what I do is to bring awareness. I'm not doing this for fame. I'm not doing this for any personal gain. I do want to create real long-lasting change, and I always find it extremely comical when the online trolls they'll get you ass. You got to stay out of the comment zones. But they'll say things like you never had a problem. You were just a heavy drinker. You never were a real alcoholic. I'm like, so how do we gauge this? Just so I'm curious. I'm like, because I was drinking quite a bit, but I just knew I always had like some problem. I was, trifecta. It was like if it wasn't alcohol, it was Adderall. If it wasn't Adderall, it was vaping. If it wasn't vaping, it was weed. If it wasn't weed, it was molly. I couldn't stop. I just wanted that dopamine so
Yeah.
badly. I wanted
Yeah.
to feel good and feel happy. And I do feel that that's society's biggest problem is that they're constantly chasing happiness, chasing pleasure, seeking instant validation and gratification. And
Yeah.
what really creates happiness is becoming great yourself, reaching your fullest potential, going after the things that are hard and challenging, right? But that requires delayed gratification. That requires discipline. That requires the boring shit first to get that desirable outcome. But when and if you're willing to do that, keep your head down and put in the fucking work and sacrifice, you will live the life that you want to. But this is why I believe that believing you're an alcoholic can be somewhat of a disadvantage because now you have adopted this weaker mindset of a person who can do less because of something that they struggle with. Whereas if you were to believe that you're not powerless to alcohol and that you're actually powerful beyond measure and that nothing could get in your way because you're aware of the things that you struggle with and don't go in avoidance, I'm not going to drink, not going to drink, not going to drink, but seek to understand a deeper understanding as to what the problem is and come up with a solution for that problem, right? If it's
Yeah.
an insecurity, what's that insecurity? Like I tell my girls, I know what my flaws are. I know what my insecurities are. I know where they come from and I'm working through them. This is a forever journey. You're not going to
Yeah.
forever have your addiction of choice or whatever, but you're forever going to want to improve your life. And that's stage 5 of my community, which is Kaizen. And Kaizen is a Japanese philosophy that the girls will adopt, which is to constantly and forever improve yourself, never being at a place of complacency, because I believe that happy people are growing people. And if you continuously throughout your life want to learn, want to teach, want to serve, want to help others, then you will always feel that fulfillment within yourself. It's when we become selfish and fall into our addictions and isolate that we feel our worst, right? We have social media, but somehow it has made us so separated. And that makes me sad. And that's why I work my ass off to bring people together. And it's just a
Yeah.
beautiful sight to see these girls actually really connecting and meeting in person. It's just, it blows my mind. I'm like, I did that. That's awesome.
Well, it sounds awesome. You're an inspiring person. You make me want to go and do like some push-ups or something. So, so tell us quickly how does it work? Like how does your program work? What do the girls go through when they sign up to your program? And yeah, like what's a bit of the structure? What could people expect if they're listening to this and they're picking up what you're putting down and they're excited and they want to make some change, they want to
Yeah.
get involved? What does it look like?
Right on. Yeah. If you're picking up what I'm putting down, it's not just cupcakes over here. So, what it looks like is what I do is I obviously find a lot of the girls who need help through Instagram or through YouTube. So, those are the two main platforms that I use. And now, when I hop on a call with them, I'll ask them a series of questions to make sure that I'm even somebody that can help them. I have turned people away just because I don't feel confident in their specific situations, right? So,
Yeah.
I take on the people that I know that I can help and I feel confident in it, right? And what I'll do is walk them through 7 stages. So your first stage is awareness. And inside of that, you watch a video of me talking about the importance of the journal for the day. Because when you tell people to journal their thoughts, they're like, I don't know what's in here right now. Especially when you just stop drinking, like your cognitive thinking is not fully there. So I give them prompts that are like, cool, just listen to the video, read the question, answer it. And so then they turn it on, they turn it in. And I say turn it in because we use a platform called School. And School is an educational platform. I don't know if you know Sam Evans or Alex Hermosi. They created it because they wanted to
Yeah.
offer people an experience to learn and to educate themselves. And seeing as like my entire background is personal development, I was extremely excited to hop on the School platform so that way I could educate people on the things that we didn't learn in high school. We didn't learn in college. We didn't learn from our parents, right? Basic human necessities. So they'll turn it in on this platform called School, and it's private. It's exclusive to the women who are in it. So it's a very vulnerable community where women just pour out their hearts and the other women read their journals and we read their journals, and it's just very nice and open. So they go through awareness, then they go through beliefs, then they're going to go through healing. And then that to me is like the addiction side of things, right? Now that our brains are working 90 days in, all right, to the 120-day mark, we then start focusing on values. That's stage 4. Values, so you can understand what you're prioritizing, right? It's like, what do you value? Some may say, like, oh, I value education, but any free time that they get, they're Netflixing and going out with friends, meaning that they don't actually value what they say they do. They value comfortability, they value entertainment. But what we have inside of us is like two worlds. We have our real self, and then we have our ideal self. Our real self, right? I use this term like the first day or the first date. You know, the girl, she orders a salad and has a glass of wine, right? First date. And then she goes home and she just crushes an entire pizza, takes her bra off, and just like lays there on the couch. That's who she really is. But she's not going to show that on the first date. Why? Because there's two people. There's the real self and the ideal self. And the only reason we don't just lead with the real self is because somewhere along the way we were conditioned to be less, to be small, to be quiet, to be down here. If we were to expose ourselves and say all that we are, well, then people might judge us. Then we wouldn't be accepted. Then there's rejection, and then you're scared, right? And that puts you into a box like, I don't fit into society, right? And so what that stage is going to help you do is basically take off your mask and be like, all right, this is actually who I am. Hello, world. And I'm working on myself. And then stage 5 is Kaizen. And then stage 6 is the butterfly effect, where you learn how to give back to other people, but not need anything back in return. It's basically giving from a place of fullness rather than a place of dependency. Right? Like, I need this person to validate me, tell me I'm doing a good job. And then stage 7 is passion. I want people to graduate, right? So it turns into the personal development side of things. Goes from addiction, personal development. How can you better design your life so you no longer want to escape from it? Like, a lot of people, they come to me like, oh, it's just not that easy. I'm like, okay, just answer me this. Are you where you want to be mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally? No? Okay. Well, then we have some work to do, right? And until
Yeah.
you feel more confident in all 4 of those pillars, you are forever going to feel like there's something missing, because that wholeness comes from within. That wholeness doesn't come from outside of us, but that's what people believe, right? I'm gonna get a new car, get a new house, get a new boyfriend, get a new this, and it feels good temporarily, but it's the inner work that we need to work on, right? Just like here in America,
Yep.
we're very pill happy. I'm anxious. Oh, here's anti-anxiety. I'm depressed. Oh, here's antidepressant. Which I'm not saying that those aren't necessary for some people, but for the amount of people that are on medication in America is alarming. I don't think that there are that many people who need to be medicated. And this is just something that they'll do, the pharmaceutical companies, rather than take the time, educate people, help them understand what their problems are, and help them solve those problems. So that's why I'm
Yep.
extremely passionate about getting people through these 7 stages, so they understand that they not only have the ability to solve their own problems, but their problems are just being pushed off time and time again, because it's like, I'll do it tomorrow, it's just excuses. And so once they get into the community, they do those 7 stages, and then on top of that, we have 10 weekly calls. So on these 10 weekly calls, we're not just focused on addiction. We have a growth mindset class. We have 2 book club classes. We have check-in sobriety calls. We have slides and wins. So we celebrate our wins on Fridays. So we have multiple. We have a meditation one. How to process your emotions. So many skills that are being developed just by being on the group calls. And then you're given the opportunity to not only share, but listen to what other women are experiencing. You might hear something that another woman says, and you're like, oh my God, me fucking too. I'm not alone. I'm not the only one who feels that way. And then on top of that, if they decide to do coaching with me, I also offer one-on-ones 1 time a week for the first 90 days to really give them that momentum, and then also
Yep.
give them that accountability, right? I'm not a sponsor, but I'm there to check in with you once a week to be like, are we doing the things that we said we're going to do? I'm very focused on what are your triggers, what are your beliefs, and what are your life problems. Those are the 3 things that I focus on. And then on the opposite side, I focus on what are your goals? What do you want to see happen in the next 6 months to a year? And then I help them formulate a plan to reach those goals, because so many people have New Year's resolutions, right? New year, new me. They have all of these goals, but then they have no plan, no system. I like to call it GPS, goal plan system. They have no plan, no system to hold that goal in place. So then those goals just become New Year's wish list. And then the same goals you
Yep.
made in 2020 are the same goals you made in 2025. Why? Because there's no structure. And if people lack that ability to structure their life, it's just bad news bears. So that's kind of like an overview of everything that my community offers. And then on top of that, you get to constantly be writing on the platform, getting feedback from the other women as well as myself. So it's a very hands-on community, because I built it that way to make sure that you're not just a number here in the community. Because I've been a number in a community, and that kind of sucks. And then I've been somebody in AA, the only one taking it seriously. And I'm like, this sucks. And there wasn't that energy that lifted me up and made me want to be excited. I think it was, who was it? I think it was Bradley Cooper, maybe. I don't know. But he was being interviewed, and she was like, was it hard, get sober? He's like, the absolutely beautiful, most beautiful thing that I ever done for myself. And I totally view sobriety that way, because it
Yeah.
is so beautiful. But in the beginning, it's fucked up. You're like,
Yeah.
what do I do? Right?
Well, listen, it sounds like you built an amazing community. And yeah, like it's very inspiring to me to just see so many, well, not so many people, but more people coming out and providing alternate opportunities for people to get sobriety or change their relationship to alcohol and drugs. And it's really cool. And I just, the thing that I love about you the most is just like your energy. It just like pops off the screen. Were you born like that, or is it just like, have you manifested it through the vitamin D and all the stuff that you've been talking about?
Yes, I manifested through the power of intention. No,
I
I was
love it.
definitely this way as a kid. I popped out like on speed, I swear. I was like, I was ready for action. So when they threw me Adderall, I was like, this is even better. I just felt like I was
Love
off
it.
the walls. But I lost that. I lost that for many years. And I lost that because I let people convince me that I was too much. Like, oh, Cheyenne, you're too much. And it's like, that's the part that I love the most about me, is that I am a lot. And I love my personality. But for years, I ran away from that because it wasn't you don't run into this energy every single day, typically. I know I have a lot of energy. It's like 5 a.m. I wake up and I'm like, who's ready? Who's ready for action? But it was exciting getting back to this. And so, you know, anyone out there listening, like, you can get back to who you were, but you're going to be better. This is why I also don't use that word recovery. For me personally, I like to think like Mark Lewis.
I love that. I try not to use that word recovery. I find myself defaulting to it because it's the thing that people use, but like,
and I'm trying to change the default settings. I want to question the narrative we've been taught. You know, Bill and who was it?
Bob,
fucking 1957. You know, I'm not saying that AA is not great, but to be honest, Will or Bill, one of them, on their deathbed, literally was asking for whiskey. So it's like, have him run his steps again because they didn't work. He's still asking for it. And
but one of them was on acid as well. You know, it was all happening.
Well, that's the funny thing is, like, with the indigenous people, they literally took away the psychedelics and gave them alcohol. If you want to control the masses, take away the psychedelics. I'm not advocating for psychedelics. Take away the psychedelics and give people alcohol, and you will control the masses. It's like, if people got sober, I think more people would wake up to what is actually going on in the world. Not going to get into all that, but there's a lot going on out there that people aren't aware of simply because they're got beer goggles, you know? It's sad to see. So when I think of an addiction, I do believe that you can overcome it. And I know that there are other temptations and distractions out there, and it's a forever like battle because it's just like the world in general. It's like, look at the food they feed us, look at the alcohols everywhere, this, that, and it's crazy. So when you overcome something, you're better on the other side of it. Recovery means that you go back to the same original state you were in. You break your arm, right? You're back to normal. You recover, your arm is better.
Yeah.
When you overcome something, you have new skills, new habits, new beliefs, new tools in your toolbox to be able to help you navigate through challenges when they present themselves in your life. Therefore, you're better. And when you overcome your addiction, you're just better. I didn't recover from anything. I overcame it. And I'm proud to say that. And I worked hard for it.
Awesome. Love it. Hey, I think that's a good place to leave it. So again, if people are picking up what you're putting down, where can they find you? Where's the best place to find you on? Is it on Instagram?
So Sobriety 7 on Instagram, same thing for YouTube, but wherever you find me, just slide into my DMs, give me a follow, and I'll message you and we'll hop on a call and we'll talk about you potentially joining the community. And now if you are a man, I don't have a community to offer, but I am doing one-on-one coaching with men. So if men would like to slide into my DM as well, I am more than willing and able to help everybody at this point. And I would love to do that.
Awesome. That's really cool. Can you send me the details of those, and I'll make sure that I put them in the show notes so that people can click on them after they scroll down to the bottom. But it's just awesome to have you on. I've loved the conversation. It was 6 a.m. here when we started. It's now 7. I was slightly like tired. Now I'm like ready to attack the day after the energy that you put through the screen. So thanks for that. And what time is it there in Florida?
5 o'clock in the afternoon. So, I guess night. But yeah, I'm glad I gave you some energy. So now go get those push-ups in and get jacked and juicy out there in the streets.
That's right. That's right. Hey, thanks everybody. Have a good morning or evening wherever you're listening to, and we'll catch you in the next episode and be vibing in your ears again soon. Peace.